Darlington Raceway. It's known as the Lady in Black. The track too tough to tame. Live from the virtual Darlington Raceway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to qualifying race number 3 for the 2021 Retro 500. As always, happy that you're spending a late Wednesday night with us here on Podium Esports. We're alongside our producer Ryan Bauer and Gary Sexton. My name is Evan Pasoko. As always, our cameras here at Podium brought to you courtesy of Dougie Beard. So Gary, we are 2 weeks in to a 4-week qualifying marathon for this Retro 500. I think we have learned a lot over the course of the last 2 weeks. They have all had chaotic moments, especially late. Tonight might be a little bit of a different one though. The smallest of the qualifying fields we have seen thus far could lend itself to some more green flag racing. Only time will tell.
Yeah, it definitely could. I'm kind of looking over the roster of drivers in here. There's definitely some guys that understand racecraft and know, how to bring their cars to the end without, getting a lot of damage and, saving their tires and things like that. As far as the chaos goes, I was in last week's race. I didn't last more than 20 laps, so there's definitely the potential for it. But I think, like you said, with the smaller field, looking at some of the names in here, I think that we're gonna have a really good race.
Well, the good news for you is if you want, you could race again next week in qualifier 4. There's a couple of drivers here tonight that are trying again. Of course, if you don't make the top 10 in any of the previous qualifiers, you could attempt to qualify again. So a couple of drivers falling into that category. But as always, the story with this Retro 500 month is this racetrack, right? Darlington Raceway. I mean, it's difficult to drive no matter what race car you're in, but this racetrack that's been perplexing drivers and mechanics alike since it opened back in 1950 with the inaugural running at NASCAR Southern 500 has such a unique layout. Turns 1 and 2 much wider than that of 3 and 4. That's of course because of that infamous minnow pond down there that is still off of turn number 4 to this day. It makes it, I think, very easily one of, if not the hardest track to drive on the NASCAR calendar alone, let alone in these 1987 cars.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, something that is kind of often overlooked with this track is how narrow it is. There's literally one lane to drive comfortably in, and you know, through 1 and 2, that lane is constantly moving from the bottom to the top as you're going through the corner. So there's really no room to race, let alone each corner is completely different. So it's gonna be interesting for these guys, and the you know, the 87 cars are not easy.
And here's the tale of the tape with tonight's podium race analysis. These qualified races far shorter than the main event that you'll catch next month. So tonight, 123 laps, 167 miles on tap. And as always, your top 10 finishers automatically transfer to the feature. They will have 5 additional sets of tires in the pits. It is a custom fixed setup courtesy of our friends at McConey Setup Shop. And old drivers have 1 fast repair to use if necessary. Let's go trackside and take a look at our podium starting grid. And Kieran Church will bring us to the green flag tonight. His 31.075, the best by a mile atop Brandon Sox, who will start alongside in second. Chris Watkins will roll from third alongside with Derek Fulton. Richard Swavely will start P5, and Joshua Esche rounds out your top 6, Gary.
Yeah, and Brian Schreiber, he's going to be starting, Tom Morano's going to be starting 7th, with Chad Oxidine starting 8th. Rolling off 9th is going to be Derek Fulton. And Matthew Stalknick, a Monday Night Racing veteran, will be rolling off 10th, with, looks like Brandon Sox rolling off 11th. So
a lot of drivers on provisionals in this one. Just looking at the numbers, I think your top 9 drivers take a time in qualifying. That means that your bottom 6 opting to qualify, or not to qualify, I should say, their grid position determined based on provisionals. We take a look at the weather conditions. It is a kind of moderate 78-degree Fahrenheit day, partly cloudy. Winds are low at 2 miles an hour, but 113 degrees track temperature is the big thing that jumps off the page there for me. We're already talking about how hard this racetrack is, how hard these cars are to drive, how thin the groove is, and you add a lot of hot asphalt out there, and it's only going to make things more challenging. Again, 15 drivers go into the ring, 10 drivers make the show. This could prove to be a battle of survival, not in the way the last 2 weeks were it's avoided accidents. Tonight could be just who can keep it clean if we see those long green flag runs.
yeah, and these guys are really going to have to work tonight, not against the competitors, but against the track, and not having as many cars out there is really going to help those guys learn what they got to do. Most of these guys are going to make it to the feature, and this is going to be a really good practice for them to get some long green flag runs, I feel like, being that there's not a lot of traffic out there.
We'll see how well they play together. A lot of drivers trying again to transfer in some. It'll be their first look. The pace truck down to the safety of the pit lane. We're happy that you're with us for Retro 500 qualifier number 3. The field is in the hands of Kieran Church. He looks to the flag stand as we say, let's go racing at Darlington.
Alrighty, we got some guys in the wall towards the back of the pack. Looks like they have it straightened out.
Race leaders try to get a bit of an advantage. No change in 1-2. Church leads to turn number 3 for the first time. Sox in line in second. Here's an on-board perspective from Dylan Connolly, who's in the race this time through. Traded out the booth for a steering wheel. He's doing a pretty good job at 95 so far. He is up 2 spots early to P6.
Yeah, and if he drives anything like he commentated in the first race of the qualifying series, he might win this thing.
Good to see how he can represent in this one, and talking about some of the drivers trying to represent as well. You got these drivers on the bubble here. This is the battle, and it's Josh Lee in the mix as well in the number 14 machine. He is the bubble driver looking for some insurance. He'll go underneath. Brian Scrivener for that spot takes it away. So Josh Lee also in the green, +3 early. He and Connolly are the biggest movers early.
Looks like we had somebody come off the top of the wall down to the apron there. I'm trying to see who that is. Looks like Richard Swavely got a little loose going, probably center off there. The car gets really light coming from the top of the wall, and did a really good job saving it. That's one of the easy things about Darlington. The lack of easy things that it has is it's pretty easy to save a car here if there's no one around you to hit you. There's tons of runoff room down there on the apron, which kind of looks like the track to the untrained eye, but there's plenty of room to save the car, and Richard did a really good job doing so.
Yeah, visually, the track looks very wide, but as you mentioned, that racing groove above those white hash marks is actually very thin. But you do have a lot of apron to work with. Some tracks you spin off down to the bottom there, and there's a wall no more than 15 feet off of the racing surface. You have ample space to work with if, as you mentioned, there's no cars around you in the corner. So an early mistake by Swavely puts him on the back foot. He was comfortably in P5. He's now back closer to the bubble in 9th. We'll continue to monitor that one as we take a look up with the number 7 machine of Derek Fulton. He also, with a couple of moves, just got around Kieran Church and looking for the race lead. Brandon Sox from second on the grid to the top spot. Your pole sitter Church all the way down to 3rd, but it may be Fulton who has the advantage in this duo. You're looking off of the back of your race leader.
Yeah, and I wonder, with Kieran falling back off the pole back to 3rd, looking at his lap time that he put down, how it was substantially faster than the rest of the field, and 2/10 here at Darlington's quite a bit. I'm wondering if he's just backed off to save some tire. It seems like he really knows how to drive this track, and that's one thing to watch with these cars. The tire degradation over the long run is grossly over-exaggerated. Not over-exaggerated. I'm sure it's quite similar to what it used to be, but the guys that can really save tires early in the run will have the greater advantage as the run goes on. And with so few cars in the field, it's real, it's easy to see that this long green flag run is going to play itself out. So I think maybe Kieran might be saving some tires.
Yeah, that's, what you would want to see as there's a look to the outside as Chad Oxidide gets around to Kieran Church. So that's a swap for 3 and 4. So if Kieran is saving, he is saving a lot early in this one. And that's kind of the duality that I struggle with in this, right, Gary? I mean, 15 cars in the race, 2 of them with issues early. Jeffrey Mathis and John Theodore not to the green flag in this one. So the actual number sitting at 13 at the moment. That's a lot of racetrack to work with, right? Tom Moreno back of the grid right now in the number 13 spot, down 4 from the start. So a slow go, but Tom Moreno, I think, is playing that survive strategy. He just wants to keep it in one piece, and hopefully he makes the show. But just because you're spread out, I don't think at Darlington, at least, means that wrecking is any less possible, right? I mean, this is a racetrack where so much chaos comes from really the driver just battling the track on their own. So a spread out field means less chance of piling up 12 cars at a time, but it doesn't limit the likelihood at all of those single car spins that we've seen in the first 2 qualifiers. As we go back on the board there with Swavely, he is in a battle in turns 3 and 4. Remember, dropped back to P9 after a near self-spin, but fighting to get those spots back side by side with Joshua Eshi in a battle for 6th and 7th down to turn 1.
Oh, yeah, and looks like Eshi there got in the wall. He's going to fall back. Chris Watkins is going to pass him. Richard Swavely with a really good recovery from that spin. I think he had fallen all the way back to 8th or 9th when he had that spin there. So he's he's kind of figured something out. Maybe he was testing the limits of the car, and now he knows where it's at, and it really seems like he's on the move forward. I just worry only 10 laps in here. You see the guys charging hard right now, and knowing that he is already, heated up his rear tires, I really, really worry about his long run speed. But I could be proven wrong. I'm proven wrong all the time when I'm racing on here, and I think guys are burning their stuff up, and I never catch them. So that's kind of the nature of the beast here. And to kind of piggyback off of what you were saying, yeah, this track is insanely tough to drive. With 13 cars, 20 cars, one car. To go 123 laps without hitting the wall or getting sideways or spinning, even if you're out there by yourself, is going to be an extremely difficult task to do.
And your biggest mover in the field is Chad Oxendine. Started 10th position in this race, but using all 12 green flag laps to his advantage thus far, has driven his way up to third. He is +7. He is now the highest running of the Blue Ovals in the field. Trying to chase down a Chevy 1-2 of Sox and Fulton. But look how far ahead that three-way breakaway for the race lead has separated themselves from everybody else. Nearly 3+ seconds back to Kieran and Church at 4, and you'll see that right there off of 2. There's Church. Basically a country mile down the road, getting sideways off of 2, and then behind Church, Josh Lee leads the next group. He's up to P5. Richard Swavely making up spots after his earlier spin behind him in P6, and there's a bit more of the fence for the 14.
Yeah, Josh, I raced around him in my short-lived time last week. I was pretty much around him the whole time, and I can already tell, based on what I saw out of him last week to this week, he's being a lot more patient. Like I said, anybody here, regardless of the skill level in these 87 cars, is going to be sideways and slided. But I can already see Josh's, just kind of looking at the times and looking who's where on the track and what kind of pace they've had. I really think Josh has a good chance to run these guys down. He looks like he's really improved on what I saw last week when I was kind of riding around him most of the race.
Well, that might be the only advantage of not qualifying in on your first attempt. And I'll preface that by saying everybody who is taking a second or third crack at qualifying for this Retro 500 would have rather done it on their first attempt. Don't get me wrong. But at least if you go for it again, you've got that knowledge in your back pocket of how this thing will kind of play out. Hopefully that experience gives you an upper hand. There is Swavely to the inside. Josh not going to let him go. Going to try to keep that number 49 Podium forward up on the outside, but I think in the end here, Swavely just going to be too much to handle. Josh Lee continues to fight back, but there it is at 1. Give it to Swavely, and now it could be double trouble for Lee because Chris Watkins tried to make a move down on the bottom, but the 19 will reconsider, reset, and try again. But Josh Lee was very good at picking up spots early, but right now kind of in the hornet's nest, and if Watkins and Eshe can get to him, he can find himself as low as P8, or if he could bring the challenge back to Swavely, going to be as high as P5. That's kind of the best stuff right now on track, is that big group in the middle, and then of course the battle up front continues on. Brandon Sox still in the race lead. Chad Oxendine now to P2, +8 positions, made the move on Derek Fulton, and now sets his sights on the number 1 spot.
Yeah, Chad really looks to have this thing hooked up and moving really well through the field. These two guys, I don't. It's really hard to tell who's saving tires and who's not. These cars have really, really big fuel tanks. They can go a long way on gas. I guarantee they cannot go as long on gas as they can on tires. So 20 laps into a run, the max I could see somebody going is probably around 50 laps. These guys were all on top of each other 2 laps ago. So was there a mistake out of Derek, or did he just decide wisely to, hey, I'm going to back off and kind of run my race just in case these guys have a mistake in front of me? Lots going on, and it's pretty crazy to think there's only 13 cars on the track, because there's just a lot going on right now with these guys all over with their strategies and such.
I think the one mistake I just saw there as we were looking back to Scrivener was that it was Michael Eckhart who had gotten pretty hard into the outside wall in turn number 2. We talked about the Darlington stripe. but pretty hard hit on the number 11 machine of Eckhart there. There he is. He will drop in more of the fence. Turn 2, he is really struggling to get that Pepsi Challenger number 11 machine to rotate, and because of that has lost a position to a handful of drivers, and Joshua Lee is on pit road. Let's take a look at the number 49 machine and what happened. Remember, he was in this big group about P5 down to P8, and off of turn number 2 he got the fence, but right there, huge impact to the inside wall. He was in a transfer position when he made that mistake, a self-inflicted error, and Josh Lee may be 0 for 2 in the Retro 500 qualifiers.
Yeah, unfortunately for him, he's going to have a faster pair. He'll be able to take that here. You don't want to have to use it with still 102 laps to go. But watch this. He's going to come out on the track, and he's going to look like a hero with 4 tires. He's going to be flying. And I think as long as he doesn't get a caution before they cycle out, he may very well end up being the leader at the end of the cycle. I see he took 4 tires there. That's something else to touch on here. These cars, as bad as they are on old tires, it's actually more beneficial sometimes to take 2 tires, especially here at Darlington, the way they wear. So depending what everyone else does, Josh could potentially cycle out as the leader because he pitted so early. Now, granted, he'll get eaten up himself once everyone else pits, but something to consider. This could work out in his favor if he does cycle out, to the leader much farther ahead than he was, and then a quick caution comes out after that with people coming to pit road. As I say that, Josh
he's
is sideways and he's wrecking. Oh no.
And that will be caution flag number 1. The point that I was just about to say was that he lost a lot of time on the lap getting onto pit road, right, because of that prior spin. So he really needs to work hard on these tires to make up for lost time. And you'll see he's all on his own at the time, running in the number 13 position. It was +2 or just 1 lap actually, right? So not out of this thing. But right here, it just snaps sideways in the center of the corner, and it's the overcorrection again that puts him into the fence. The caution comes out because look out, those were your race leaders coming through. So close call for Oxendean and Sox. Josh Lee back down to the pit lane for the 2nd time tonight. We cannot hashtag blame Evan for that one because I was not talking at the moment it happened. Josh, you had a great start, man. Drove up to a top 5 position. What went wrong there?
I think the exact thing that went wrong was my crew chief, Jeff McConey, forgot to put the tire blankets on the tires. They were just, ice cold when I got out there. I think like 20 degrees, like they were freezing, like literal ice. So, I mean, that's the main problem. But, the team worked hard, Podium Esports car, and I do stand by the statement, hashtag blame Evan for everything that happens. And yeah, don't let McConey defend himself. I know he wants to, but keep him down there.
We don't give him a headset. You gonna be back and try this again next Wednesday?
There's a possibility. Not against it, but
I think you have to at this point, right? We're kind of committed. I want to see you follow it through.
Yeah, I made a clown of myself in race 2, make a clown of myself here in race 3, and it was a very easy qualification in this one as well. So we'll see what happens in the next one. But again, shout out to Podium Esports, shout out to you, Evan, hashtag blame Evan, shout out to Eric Messer for yelling at me in broadcast chat all the time and posting about me on Twitter. Everything's going great.
Sounds good. Track is clear. Go green, Josh. Appreciate you chatting.
Thank you very much. Send them. Let's go racing.
Josh Lee, who was up and into a top 5 position earlier in this race. It has fallen apart quickly for the driver of the 49. He is essentially out of this one. Meanwhile, everybody else is onto the pit lane, and the race off of pit road goes in favor of Brandon Sox. He will be the first car out with 4 tires. Everybody pitted, but Dylan Connolly, who will assume the number 1 position. Gary, you were just talking a lot about the tires. Does he dare stay out? No, he calls the bluff and it will come back down pit road, because I was teeing you up there to talk to him about strategy, but let's see if you've got him on the radio.
Hey Dylan, this is Gary up in the booth there. We saw you stay out, but now you're coming back down pit road. We were kind of speculating whether you were going to stay out. We know that the 87 cars kind of have a weird tire wear where the cars on older tires can sometimes be better than the cars on newer tires. So how's your race going out there? How's the car? How's it driving? And yeah, let us know.
There's a lot of blue paint on the wall, so that should be a big hint. We're driving. It's driving good. You know, we got a little damage to fix, but I've worn these tires off, so I'm learning. So we're having fun. We're driving. In fact, the reason I stayed out is because I forgot that the pits were open. I'm not even gonna lie to you. So we got over 100 laps left, so we're gonna figure something out here, try to get in that top 10.
Absolutely. Well, you have fun out there. Take your time. Don't let the track beat you up.
Oh, it has.
Well, any more than it has. Hopefully you've learned from what's going on out there. And if I could offer any advice, just squeeze that throttle on exit. Don't mash it. You'll be all right.
I'll do what I can. My spotter Jeff McConey's helping me out. So.
Oh boy, you're in trouble.
We're in good hands.
I don't know about that.
I'm contractually obligated to say that. So.
That makes more sense. Well, good luck out there, Dylan.
Yes, sir.
Well, I can report that the Connolly entry should have a bit of extra attention now because Jeff McConey has officially submitted his resignation as the crew chief of Josh Lee's number 14 Ford Thunderbird. So that is the latest from the pit lane drama here in Darlington, South Carolina. Of course, happy that you're with us on Podium Esports for qualifier number 3 for the Retro 400. Myself, Evan Pasoka, Gary Sexton up at the broadcast booth alongside our producer Ryan Bauer downstairs. And there is 1 week left, so if you want to qualify, you have one more opportunity. The Retro 500 is Podium Esports' tribute to the Winston Cup era of stock car racing. Used at iRacing's 1987 Chevy Monte Carlo and Ford Thunderbird at Darlington. Drivers are competing in qualifiers throughout the month of August in order to earn their place in the 367-lap 500-mile feature on Labor Day. $500 to the winner, plus bragging rights that comes with winning one of the hardest tests here in a virtual car. So for more information, podiumesports.com/retro 500. Pace car, though, to the safety of pit road. Single file restarts, and wasting no time is Brandon Sox. He's on the loud pedal, and we're back underway.
Yeah, something to notice here, Tom Morano took 2 tires. I was talking to Tom last night and was kind of explaining how that can benefit you, especially if, you know, only 20 or so laps on the tires. You're going to want to... I told him to try it, and he did, so we'll kind of see how this works for Tom. I know he's a really patient driver, so he's probably going to give up a few spots here, but I think on the long run, he may actually have... he may be in a better situation with his tires.
And driving smart right now behind the wheel of that SimSeats Ford, allowing Matthew Stolnick to get around. So the number 13 machine, or the 41 on the car, the eNASCAR Chevy Monte Carlo, up to a race high P5. Stolnick, another one of the drivers who is in a repeat qualifying attempt for this 500. And how about Richard Swavely? You know, we've only talked about him tonight in the context of that self-spin mistake he had, Gary, but I think pace-wise, that 38 has been one of the best. Started P5, was there early, dropped to the back, sliced and diced through the field, and just like that, he is already back up and into the top 3 and putting a lot of pressure on your pole sitter, Kieran Church.
Yeah, and Richard Swavely is one of our SimMax Cup Series regulars that runs on Sunday night. Oh, looks like we got a caution here on the track. We'll touch on Richard here in a little bit. We got plenty of time too.
And I think you'll see the slow car in turn 2, Tom Morano. We were talking about the tire difference, right sides only, and I thought that he was really driving with a good approach there on for the restart, not fighting guys for position, but you'll see right here, very similar to what happened to Josh Lee. It just goes away from him, and what a wreck avoidance by Chris Watkins, who was dead to rights directly behind Morano. He was able to dive down to the inside and avoid him, and then as Morano spun back up the track, more drivers were able to avoid. Just check out the perspective here from the 3 car.
Yeah, what a save. Or what a avoidance there. That's a tough place to miss a car. At the top of the wall in turn 1, and you know Tom did a good job of holding his brakes. Looks like Tom maybe just stepped on the gas a little bit too hard, maybe let it slide up to the wall a little too much. But I'm sure I'm going to be fired as a crew chief now for telling him to take 2 tires last night. So I'll be at the unemployment line with Jeff.
If you just didn't say anything about it on the broadcast, none of us would have known. But you were just hyping up that was your product there, the 2 tires, and then immediately he spins.
Yeah, I'm defer that advice to John Theodore. He's the one who told me to do that, and it worked for me the other night in Monday Night Racing at Michigan. I was taking 2 tires the whole race, so I'll blame that on John. We'll just keep deferring our terrible crew chief prowess onto other people.
You know, I'll stand by for whoever John wants to defer that to as well, and we'll just see how far along the line we can go until somehow it cycles back to you on top of the virtual pit box. But like I said, just because we have less cars on track may not necessarily mean we will have less caution flags overall, because yes, we saw some crazy moments in qualifiers number 1 and 2, but a majority of those yellows stemmed from single car spins. You could have 5 cars on track, you'd still get probably 1 or 2 single car spins in the race. I mean, that is how tough and grueling the challenge is with this 1987 Cup cars and this virtual Darlington Raceway. So just for context, every once in a while, my race notes are correct, and the incidents so far have been those single car spins to this point. Lights of the base car stay on for 1 more trip around. Figured we could say thanks to our friends at McConey Setup Shop. We mentioned that all the drivers running tonight's race are ready to fix setup courtesy of McConey Setup Shop. The McConey Setup Shop is your home for iRacing setups and the official setup shop of Richmond Raceway Esports. From legends to cup cars, we've got you covered with dirt setups available for late models, modifieds, and wind sprints as well. In McConey Setup Shop, they're our setups but your victories. Their newest book, How I Drive, featuring a foreword by NASCAR Cup Series driver Anthony Alfredo, is now available. Come learn from the pros how to be the best driver you can be. Visit McConeySetupShop.com for more information. And speaking of deferring, Gary, I will defer to you on this one, being the one that has far more driving experience compared to the 2 of us here in the booth. Obviously, a fixed setup really evens the playing field. You know, for those who may not drive on the sim as regularly, I mean, what are some of the pros and the cons and the challenges you think these guys are going with when you're trying to find an upper hand on somebody else, but the guy in front of you, the guy behind you, has the exact same car that you do?
Yeah, there's definitely, I think the biggest challenge, especially again in these cars at this track, is the inability to generate a really big run without the guy in front of you making a mistake. I think that the really good fixed setup drivers are consistently the most patient drivers on the sim. They wait for the people in front of them to make a mistake before they try to make their moves. The ones that are over aggressive and they drive really hard, that works in maybe a short run, but over the long run you really have to kind of just wait for your opportunity to make a pass, because horsepower, aero, all that is exactly the same, outside of a little bit of damage. And that's more so in these cars because of how hard they are to drive, how easy they spin out under throttle. So really your only advantage is just kind of waiting for a mistake.
Well, the restart going to come this time with 90 laps to go just inside here from Darlington. We're back underway. And again, Sox using the advantage of the control car to get way out in front. Your top 3 will pull away. The battle is going to be for 5th. Here comes the 70th Scrivener on the inside as he makes the pass on Eshy.
Yeah, and we got 2 wide back here with Josh. He's 11 laps down, though, so he'll probably concede these spots here. And, yeah, sorry, I'm just listening to the radio chatter right now. There's someone asking for a black flag cleared, so it looks like it's Chad Oxidine.
It looks like he's discussing it. Also, Stolneck was discussing to get a black flag cleared by race control. It was reviewed and it has been cleared. So Stolneck is not going to have to give up his number 4 position. On the board with Michael Eckhart as he rides in 7th position at the moment. That's Eshy up the road, is into the outside wall. Eckhart going to try to squeeze on the bottom. but without the momentum, can't do it. Gore gets shut as they both get sideways, and the lapped car not for position will win out in that group. And listen, I'll give credit to Josh for sticking in this one. He is 11 laps down, but all it would take is 3 drivers to DNF, and he could still, in theory, get a top 10 in this one. Meanwhile, trouble behind your leaders. Car into the inside wall. It's Tom Moreno again in the 42 machine. He'll quick out to pit road, but he wasn't the only driver with issues. Somebody else nearly fenced it, but was able to hang on as we see what happened with the 42.
Yeah, it looks like the 11 got loose, and I think Tom might have been reacting to that, and he got on the brakes a little bit hard, and it came around on him to the inside wall. Not too much damage.
He might have been able to save that. I mean, you saw the walls there, right? There's that one inside wall that is much further out, closer to the racetrack. He just clipped that. If that wasn't there, he maybe would have had room to save that race car.
Yeah, you're definitely right about that. I think he just kind of clipped the corner of it, and that kind of sent him around. He didn't hit really that hard. I would like to see him, back up and keep going there, but when I've been there too. You spin 2 or 3 times on your own, it gets kind of frustrating, and you look at the laps and you still have a little less than 100 to go, and you think, I'm gonna practice and I'll come back next week. I know Tom's already signed up for next week, so hopefully we can see him back out here.
Well, that's what I said in terms of Josh and Stallnecht and some of these other guys, right? You are going to learn things over the course of running these qualifiers. Would everybody love to get it done the first time? Yes. Does that experience guarantee you an upper hand? No. But if you can kind of learn, hey, this is what the car does on this kind of a run with 2 tires. This is how people are going to react. And you kind of pick up those things. I think you can well position yourself to be in the catbird seat come qualifier number 4. And of course, I mentioned it's not too late to sign up for this one at podiumesports.com/retro 500. The final qualifying race is next Wednesday. That is August the 25th, right back here on Podium Esports. So if you want to get in on the show, that is your last and final opportunity. And then, of course, the main event is on the 6th. That one is, of course, the full-length 500-mile race with the $500 on the line. As we ride on board with Derek Fulton, who we haven't talked a ton about tonight, minus when he went to the race lead. Remember, early in this one, he charged his way to second. That's really the only time we've seen the 7. All of a sudden, he's been cycled back to P9 and pretty significantly off for the race leaders. But I'm digging the Maple Leaf on the front hood, so pulling for Derek Fulton, I believe the lone Canadian in the field with butt kicker on board with his Chevy Monte Carlo. Back up front still, it is Brandon Sox leading this race, but Richard Swavely has gotten to a race high P2. The gap is about 0.6 of a second, so just watch if that 38 machine's able to work that gap down, as your top 3, it looks like, are the ones breaking away.
And Brandon has been, equally as impressive as Richard has been. I mean, Richard's passed, I feel like, a few more cars, but Brandon's had quite a bit of speed here. And again, it's tough to tell this early into the run what Richard's thinking, if he doesn't have the pace to keep up with Brandon, or if he's, trying to save a little bit. I know I keep saying that, saving tires, but you really have to hammer that into your head that as part of what your approach as a driver has to be. And maybe I'm not far enough removed from the car that I keep saying it, but I just watch these guys sliding around out of the corners, and I keep clenching my fist, thinking, oh no, not because they're about to hit the wall, but because of 30, 40 laps from now, what's their car going to be driving like? I mean, it's hard to drive on lap 1 and 2 of a run. I just, watching these guys chew up their tires is really it's really giving me PTSD.
Well, the good news is, we mentioned off at the top, they have a lot of tires available, right? I mean, you talked about the fuel window in this one. Drivers could go, if it had gone green, probably on a 2-stop strategy if they really wanted to, but it seems like the yellows are going to be more of an indication of how these runs are going to be rather than the fuel limit. And because they have 5 additional sets of tires in pit road, you could probably get tires most every time you come down pit road. Now, you do not want to be the driver who gets caught out without tires at the end. That's why you saw Morano take 2, save a set for a little bit later on. So some drivers may try to implement that strategy, but there are ample tires if you do want to be more aggressive, thinking that these runs are going to be a little bit shorter and the restarts more frequent than it would be if the race would agreed all the way. Watching the three-way battle for 7th position, Joshua Eschy is the lead, but not for long. Look out, the 70 was into the outside wall. Ahead of them, that was Brian Scrivener, and then all of a sudden he got into the fence, and somehow it's Derek Fulton who makes the passes. Thought for sure that Eschy was going to be able to make a pass on the 70, but instead he checked up a little bit unsure what was going on, and it was the 70 car of Fulton. He wants more now, looking to the outside, but the 70 shuts the door. Yeah,
and Matthew Stalknick had an issue in front of them, and now he's kind of inserted himself in the middle as Derek hits the wall out of 2 there. So now throw Stalknick in there, who's looks like he's having trouble with the handling of his cars. Oh, as the looks like the 77 is the 7 is going around. So, or the 70. Sorry, the 70 of Brian Scrivener went around in front of those guys.
Yeah, he has been awfully sketchy the last couple of laps, right? Talked about how he got into the fence at a 2 a little bit ago. This time it's in 3 and 4. Just a touch, but it bounced off the fence. And again, using all of that apron to save that 70 car. You can see the damage on the right-hand side of it for those repeated hits to the fence. And in about 3 laps' time, Brian Scrivener has gone from P5 to P9. So dangerously close to the bubble as we ride out aboard there for a moment with Chris Watkins. He is looking for a way around Matthew Stalknick in the number 6 spot.
Yeah, and both of these guys you can tell, are working really hard behind the wheel. They're sliding and bouncing off the wall. Matthew's been in the back of somebody. He's got nose damage. I mean, this is what racing at Darlington's all about. You know, it doesn't matter where you are on the track. You're racing the track. If you're racing against somebody, there's just so much going on. The car's hard to drive. It's not going to get any easier as the run goes on. I mean, this is what, you know, as a racer and sim racer, this is really what you kind of live for. And man, I'm having fun watching these guys battle. I race with Matt every Monday night. I know how aggressive he is. I know he's probably not saving tires at all. And there he is. He throws a big block on the 19 down the backstretch. This is incredible.
Yeah, they're having fun, right? I think that, you know, if you talk too much about the odds and the, you know, what's to lose, and you can kind of forget that this is a really fun car track combination, and clearly Stalknick and Watkins are having a lot of fun as they continue to scrap for 6th and 7th position, and even Joshua Eschy not that far behind in the 47er seat, so you could make it a 3-way battle for the number 6 position. Up the road, a bit of a challenge there for a moment. Kieran Church and Chad Oxendine for 3rd and 4th, but that kind of simmers down just a little bit. We check in Church's perspective up the road to Swavely, who may be the driver that needs to be worried about Chad Oxendine, because Oxendine last couple of laps has been the fastest car on track, the only one down in the 32s.
Yeah, I think he restarted behind the cut line at the beginning of that restart, so he was one of the guys talking about a black flag there at the beginning of the restart. He's working his way past Richard Swavely right now pretty easily. You know, this is that point in the run where those who know how to drive the track and know how to drive these cars and have the more experience, this is when they're going to start moving to the front. They're the guys that, you know, when they catch a car, if, you know, I mean, he ran Richard back from probably 8 seconds at the beginning of the run, so he's going to catch him. He's going to pass him pretty easily, and you know he's pretty 2/10 faster than the leader right now, so he's definitely going to catch the leader. They may pit before that, but Chad's on the move, and I look for him to be challenging Brandon Sox here any moment.
Meanwhile, Josh Lee and Dylan Connolly racing back there, not for position, but hanging it out. You saw them getting sideways off of turn number 2. I mean, that's going to be continuing all night long, all throughout the field as you see chasing down at a 2 is Kieran Church. Remember, that number 9 started on the pole position. It is the Miller High Life number 22 in the sim. That's him there off of the corner, but timing and scoring purposes, look for the number 9 machine on timing. But Kieran Church started from pole. Hasn't looked like the best of cars on the long run. It appears that, once we get 5-10 laps into a run, he's going the wrong direction. But again, that all may be according to plan, because P4 is hardly anything to fret about, still well within the transfer bubbles. Meanwhile, Watkins again looking underneath Stallneck, but give credit to Matt there, that 41 machine has not given him a window to take advantage of. It has remained largely mistake-free throughout this battle. A little bit of defense there, but again, he's not knocking it down. You can get away with a kiss like that.
Yeah, you absolutely can, especially with the new damage model on these cars, and these things are tanks too. As the 19 gets to the inside of Matt wisely lets him go there. You don't want to run side by side this late into a run through one if you don't have to. Yeah, Matt's definitely working the car. Watkins is working the car. Hopefully, Eshy was just kind of sitting there being patient, and I look for him to kind of pounce here on both of these guys as we keep getting farther into this run.
Is soon closing in on halfway through this third qualifying race. As the onboard perspective is the best seat in the house there for Joshua Eshy, one of many drivers who has had ups and downs probably several times over tonight, but Stallneck may look a little bit flustered here. Again, he had done so good at holding off Chris Watkins for the longest time, but Stallneck now seems to be under fire. Eshy's there, and as he gets a bit of the fence again, Scrivener not that far behind as well. You can't really get much worse than 9th. All these drivers about 9 seconds ahead of Michael Eckhart, who is still the bubble driver in P10, but of course, the more positions you finish up the running order in this race, the higher you start for the actual Retro 500. There is no separate qualifier for that 500. Grade going to be determined based on finishing order in these races.
Yeah, absolutely. And that may be part of the reason why you see these guys battling so hard, while they're currently safe within the transfer spot. It's one of those things you kind of have to ask yourself, is it better to just transfer in, or transfer in and start as far forward as I can, but risk, potentially ruining my chance of transferring in. Something to think about. Josh is already, he may be 11, or Josh Lee may be 11 laps down, but he's already surpassed Tom Morano, and he's up to 12th. All it's going to take is 2 more guys to have issues here before that delta of the laps down that he is, and he's in the show. So when you're racing around 6th, 7th, you kind of have to, that's kind of some of the questions you have to ask yourself. Do I really want to race this guy hard to try to start as far forward as possible? Because we could collect ourselves and knock both of ourselves out. So
yeah, it is a big point, right? You have to walk that balance of the risk versus reward. Would you like to start higher up in the running order? Absolutely. Is it worth not qualifying at all? Probably not. And, we've seen that several times. There were a couple of late race moments / incidents in qualifier number 1 that jumped to mind. Even at the end of qualifier number 2, saw some late drama where drivers were battling for position within the transfer spots. Whereas if they had just said, you know what, I think we're fine where we are, they all would have made the show. Instead opted to fight for position. An accident occurred, and several of those drivers ended up not qualifying in those events. Look at the slide by Scrivener, super aggressive at lap number 61, just drove it right up on Joshua Eshy and
exactly
called his bluff there. Yeah,
that's exactly what we were just talking about. I mean, at the end of the day, racers are going to race. It doesn't matter where you are, and especially when you're having fun, you can't help yourself. You get behind the wheel and you're racing, you see a position, you're going to pounce. It's instinct. We could just throw away all that we've been talking about with that. These guys are going to battle.
It just kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, that group had been fighting hard, but nobody was quite throwing slide jumps like that. And I think Scrivener owes Eshy one at the end of the night, because if the 47 didn't lift, he would have fenced him. Meanwhile, look at this battle down the back straightaway. Josh Lee is trying to get out of the way for third place runner Richard Swavely and fourth place runner Kieran Church. They're fighting for position around that 49 car, who again, minus 12 laps, not a part of this battle. Also a big moment in the battle for the transfer. There are now only 10 cars on the lead lap. Dylan Connolly has dropped 1 lap down in the number 11 spot. That means that Michael Eckhart is the final transfer as the final car on the lead lap. Now, he isn't that terribly far ahead of Connolly on racetrack, but Connolly has been lapped by the leaders and Eckhart has not, as we ride back on board with Chad Oxendine looking to take it to Brandon Sox, who has been pretty untouchable on this most recent run.
Yeah, he's been on rails the whole time. You can just see by his line, he's exiting straight as possible in the perfect the perfect angle off the corner, kind of as he heads into 3 here. Let's see how high he gets up to the wall. He's going to get right up to the shadow, kind of following right in the tracks. I'm hearing chatter of somebody on the backstretch.
Josh Lee, I think, who had an incident. He was actually ushered out of the way in turn number 2. We talked about faster lead lap cars trying to pass, and right there, Josh Lee really didn't know which lane he wanted to be in, and Derek Fulton just moved him into the outside wall. Fortunate that we don't get a caution flag at all, but I wonder if Fulton's going to get any damage. Here's how he saw it, and it looks like Lee going low, coming high, and I think as a slower and damaged car, Josh really just didn't have the speed to commit to either of the racing lanes, and unfortunately, he just got tagged there, and it's actually going to end up hurting Fulton because it cost him a spot.
Yeah, and trying to stop these cars is like trying to stop an 18-wheeler on ice. It's just, it's pretty much impossible. And when Josh kind of made that move back up the track, I don't really think there was anything Derek could do there but hit him. And yeah, fortunately for him, he hit him out of the way instead of back into his own path. So not a whole lot of anything Derek could really do there. And Josh too has been fighting his car. It's got damage. There's not a lot of blame we can put on Josh for kind of being in the way there, but just a racing deal. That's tough. Those are the situations you don't want to be in, especially again around 6th, 7th, 8th place, because that could have easily ended the day for Derek. So
it is
13 cars, but
yeah, and we said even with 13, you were still going to have those moments of drama as the battle for the race lead rages on. Oxendine on the inside, had it at the stripe. It'll be all his to turn 1. Chad Oxendine, new race leader from 10th on the grid, drives that 77 Ford to the race lead. We're past halfway home, though, here for the virtual Darlington Raceway. Let's take a look top to bottom at our iRacing Midway Race Break, brought to you by iRacing. iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, and all from your home PC. You can race virtually in Australian supercars, IndyCar, IMSA, NASCAR, the World of Outlaws, and more. As we work lap number 70 in today's 123-lap contest, your new leader is Oxendine. He is pulling away ahead of Brandon Sox, who finds himself back where he started this race in the number 2 position. And then what a night for Richard Swavely, up and down about 6-7 times, but he's back inside of the top 3 ahead of your pole sitter, Kieran Church, who has been consistently a top 5 race car. Chris Watkins behind them, kind of quiet, all things considered. For the number 19 machine tonight, that's not bad, though. He leads Derek Fulton, who's back there in P6 after that run-in with Lee a little bit ago. Still ahead of Matthew Stallnack, who has transferred in from 11th position up to P7, hoping to hold that and make the Retro 500. Brian Scrivener is behind all of them. He rides in the number 8 position at the moment. He he's got his dress clothes on for this race. He is ahead of Joshua Eshi, who is now the last car on the lead lap in 9th. And a change for the bubble. Dylan Connolly is still 1 lap down, but he is currently in the number 10 position. That is because something happened with Michael Eckhart that has brought the number 11 machine down to pit road. He got serviced 4 tires, but the car is still in the box. His night may be done. Josh Lee's down there with him, scored in 12th. Tom Morano is in the garage in 13th position, and that is your field so far in qualifier 3. That's a look top to bottom at your iRacing midway race break, with over 170,000 members on the service and over 90 laser scan tracks and cars to choose from. iRacing is your portal to the racing world. With iRacing, every day is race day. Get on track at iRacing.com. Leader Chad Oxendine into the fence in turns 3 and 4. An unassisted error as he had just opened up nearly a 1-second advantage over Sox. But there it is, way sideways Gary in, and he caught the fence, and that'll hand it right back to the 69 machine of Sox.
Yeah, and there it is. You know, he's the leader. He worked his way past 11 cars on his way to the lead over the course of 40 laps, and then gets the lead, drives out to 2-second lead, and then wrecks. This track, again, is extremely hard to drive this late in the run in a 1987 Ford Thunderbird. It is, and that's it. That's a testament right there. Clearly the best driver on the track tonight, hasn't had any issues, gets out in front and gets sideways and hits the wall. And then, you know, a gift to Brandon, who's been perfect in his own race. So if I'm Chad, I look to probably hit pit road here soon. It's clear the tires on his car are gone. I think he's in a window where he can make it to the end on tires. After that mistake, I would get down pit road as soon as possible here before the leader does, and try to get that lead back.
And an issue now with Dylan Connolly, talking about all the drama for the bubble position. Flat tire for the driver of the 95 machine on the longest run for him of the night, 42 lap long stint. It's going to cost him a lot. I mean, the pit stop's not the shock, right? Other cars are going to be pitting. Swavely's in. Eckhart is in, right? That's not a surprise. But the issue is he basically had to go a whole lap around limping on a flat tire. And that is going to be really what hurts him, because the battle for the bubble is going to come down to him and Michael Eckhart at the moment. Remember, Eckhart also had his own issues. So it's going to be who can fumble it the least, it appears, in the battle for position number 10. Meanwhile, the guys up at the front of the field, look out, there is Eckhart, who nearly fenced it. I mean, it seems like nobody wants P10 right now. Whoever's in 10th appears to be a cursed position. It is a wild battle between Connolly and Eckhart that we'll keep you posted on. But after that mistake and subsequent kind of unraveling for Chad Oxendine that had your second place runner dive to pit road, Brandon Sox is all on his own, leading this race now 11 seconds over Church. But I would think that this could be a very good call for Oxendine. But no, he's in the box. Look at the time, trying to get engine damage repaired. And now Oxendine's night, as he refires, is going to take a tumble.
Yeah, 40-second pit stop is not ideal. Now, granted, 4 tires and full fuel here is probably going to take around 22 seconds. So he's given up 20 seconds on the track to Brandon. Brandon hasn't made a mistake tonight. Not saying he won't, but, you know, with Chad's mistake and then sitting in the box to get damage fixed, it's going to be tough for him to win this thing. I think he's going to be plenty fine to make it through and transfer in, but definitely not the outcome he was looking for.
So every time we look at a different car, somebody is having an issue. Kieran Church clean into the box, and that Miller American Chevy entry, so he's going to get serviced up. Still waiting on Sox to come down pit road. Sox, Watkins, Fulton, and Eshi are the only drivers yet to pit. They occupy your top 4 positions. and inside of 50 to go. I mean, no shock that this is your strategy here, Gary, right? They've been on, I mean, in the case of Sox, he's been out there on that, tire and fuel for about 56 laps. For Chris Watkins, it's been about 48. So no shock they're kind of splitting the differences. We see top left of your screen close it in on 42 laps to go.
Yeah, and we look here, I'm looking at Chad. He just passed Brandon. He got one of his laps back, like he was sitting still. If I'm Brandon, I'm hitting pit road as soon as possible. All that time that Chad just gave up on pit road, he's giving back up now by staying on the track. Plus, you have guys blowing right front tires. I'm kind of confused at why he's staying out here, but yeah, as soon as he.
Yeah, I would have thought he would have responded, right? As soon as Oxendine pitted, you typically tend to see the race leader respond to that kind of thing, unless he really feels like he's got the better car in the long run, because, of course, he's losing tons of time now. He will, though, in turn, have the better tires at the end of the run. But there's only one way to see if this actually works out for him. Not the only one who has, gone for this long strategy now. Just 3 drivers yet to come down to the pit lane. I wonder if they're just afraid of a yellow, right? They don't want to get caught out, because as it sits now, the 3 cars who have yet to pit are the only drivers who haven't, or the only drivers that are not off of the lead lap, right? Everybody else down a lap at least. So that could be an element of it, but Joshua Esche just radioed in that number 47 will be pitting from the number 3 position. Chris Watkins and Brandon Sox now, the lone duo. As we ride on board there for a moment, that was your net leader in all of this. We talk about, well, who's going to be in front when all of this is said and done. It is, in fact, Richard Swavely, the lead car of those who have already completed service, right now running in 4th position.
Yeah, it looks like Brandon's hitting pit road now. I heard him call it out. Yep, and then he drops down. Getting on the pit road here is extremely difficult, even in a modern day NASCAR Cup car, let alone trying to get this thing slowed down for pit road speed without spinning out. And as you can see, he took it really easy to the bottom. Looks like he got on there without speeding. I'm really curious to see where he cycles out here. I have no doubts that I think Richard Swavely will inherit the lead, but by how much? And with 39 laps to go, that's quite a bit here. I think Brandon should be okay to run these guys back down, barring any sort of mistake, but it really all depends how much time he gave up, and he was giving up 3 to 4 seconds a lap towards the end of that run. So I'm very curious to see how this shakes out.
And all he needs first is a clean pit stop as well. You can see the box time on the right-hand side of your screen. He is going for 4 tire service, the rights, then the lefts. And as Brandon Sox gets the car off of the jack and pulls out, a 22.9 second 4 tire stop is actually the slowest of the 4 tire stops we saw out of anybody on this pit cycle. His pit lane time of 57 seconds total, the second slowest only to Dylan Connolly. So not only do we think he's on the wrong end of the strategy, at least at this moment in time, could work out in the end, still 37 to go, but he also had one of these slower pit lane exchanges of the night. And the reason that Swavely went to the top spot so quick again, because he was the first driver to pit, right? He pitted 10 laps ago, so he started getting laps on fresher tires immediately. That's how you get that instant track position. For Brandon Sox, though, he is able to cycle out into the number 3 position, so not all is lost here. And he's only about a second off of Swavely for the number 2 spot. So Sox could still be in a very good position in this, all things considered.
Yeah, I think Brandon's in a perfectly good position here to run down Richard. And actually, Richard bounced off the wall a lap and a half ago in 3 and 4, and almost spun and gave up about a half a second to the 2 seconds he had when they first came out. So yeah, I think Brandon's going to be in a good spot here. He's a second faster than him on the track, and he's already caught him. So here you go.
And he'll go to the inside. There is not much that Richard Swavely can do here. And Brandon Sox thought that it was quite a gamble by staying out, but he will easily make the move on the 38 of Swavely, and Brandon Sox now goes back into position number 2.
Someone just spun. I think it was
It was Eschi. So P9, Joshua Eschi. You can see the smoke as the 47 blends back up. There was no yellow, but this was on his own, trying to get underneath. And you can see right there, the car up top got into the fence. It might have spooked him a little bit. He got loose. And again, whoever's near the bubble, if it's 9th, if it's 10th, if it's 11th, I mean, anything that can go wrong appears to be going wrong. And I still can't tell you who's going to transfer because Connolly and Eckhart, 10th and 11th, are now both within a lap of each other, down 3 laps. Here is your race leader, though. Finally, after 58 laps, Chris Watkins will throw in the towel. He will pit from some 37 seconds ahead of the race leaders. But again, you're looking at nearly a minute total stopwatch time from pit road entry to pit road exit, so there is no doubt here that Brandon Sox is going to go back to the race lead, coming to 33 laps to go.
Yeah, and now I'm curious to see what Chris can do with his fresh tires because, you know, I think he stayed out as long as he possibly could to gain an advantage over Brandon staying out long because, you know, now he'll have the freshest tires on the track. I do think that he's probably at the beginning of that cycle was too far back off of Brandon to really make it work, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Chris drive up into the top 5, top 3 based on his fresh tires, barring that he doesn't have any mistakes or, you know, cautions and things like that. Something else to consider, the beginning of the cycle, guys like Richard Swavely, I mean, they're going to have to put a lot of laps on their tires to finish this race. And I've already seen Richard bounce off the wall a few times and slide. I wouldn't throw out, you know, a few more self spins in front of traffic, you know, causing more issues for guys and or bringing out a caution. And then at that point, it's, you know, it's up in the air. Guys like Kieran Church, who are clearly fast on the short run, could then have a shot at the win.
This thing is far from decided, both in the battle for the race lead and in the battle for the transfer. Race winner in this qualifier number 3 will start from P3 on the inside of row number 2 for the Retro 500 in 2 weeks' time. Back on board there as we race down the back straightaway with Kieran Church, who has had quite a night as well. Started on pole, but has been very consistent tonight. Hasn't been the driver making mistakes, hasn't been the guy overdriving and forcing the issue, has just ran his own race and has been comfortably in a transfer spot for almost the entirety of this one. And again, that may be the key.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's more than likely the key. I mean, you look at someone like Brandon who hasn't made a mistake. Kieran in the same boat, finds himself in the top 3. Richard, outside of his mistakes, I mean, he's got pure speed to run up in the front. I mean, if he didn't have the mistakes he's had tonight, he may be contending for the win. But I look at someone like Chad Oxidine, and he's actually running faster laps than the leader right now, and he pitted substantially earlier than Brandon. And we know Chad's been fast all night, and he's already up to 4th after sitting on pit road for 40 seconds getting damage repaired. So he may be challenging Brandon by the end of this run. We know Chad is really, really, really good at minimizing mistakes and getting through the field on the long run. So I look for a potential convergence of the top 3 on top of each other here soon if Chad can get up to Brandon and start racing them hard and slow themselves up and allow guys like Richard and Kieran to catch up.
Yeah, and I mean, Swavely, who got disposed of when Sox caught him initially, has been faster than the 69 the last couple of times around. Still to be decided. Inside of 30 laps to go, we'll take a quick opportunity to step aside and go side by side so you don't miss a moment of the action. Brandon Sox is leading from Darlington, trying to win Retro 500 qualifying race number 3.
When you want to be the best, you can't settle for the rest. There's a reason that McConey Setup Shop is trusted by more virtual and real-world tracks and companies than any other setup shop in iRacing. With partners such as Stafford Motor Speedway, the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, Five Flag Speedway, Speed 51, and more. When you want something done right, you go to the experts at Makoni Setup Shop.
With setups available for most series on both asphalt and dirt, built by a team of professional builders consisting of some of the top talents on the service, Makoni Setup Shop LLC has what you need to hit the track with confidence. Head over to MakoniSetupShop.com and learn why Makoni Setup Shop is the official setup shop of Richmond Raceway Esports and is partnered with some of the largest names in virtual and real racing.
And remember, at Makoni Setup Shop, there are setups, but your victories.
And back live from the virtual Darlington Raceway. Tonight's coverage is brought to you in part by Podium Esports. As always, if your brand or business is interested in partnering with Podium Esports, we have space available for you. Podium Esports has a plan for every budget and can custom tailor solutions to suit your businesses or brands that needs the best. For information on how to access the wide variety of partnership possibilities, send an email to admin@podiumesports.com. We are back at Darlington, and we are under the caution flag with less than 25 laps to go. And it is going to change up this race. Just when Brandon Sox-Gary thought he was going to be on cruise control, one last moment of chaos, and I think it was issues with Michael Eckhart. He had a spin when he stepped aside, kind of a self-spin, caught the race car, no issue, but a second spin for him triggers the yellow. So all of your race leaders down pit road, they were just in anywhere from 15 to 25 laps to go. So is a two-tire stop possible?
I would. I mean, based on the knowledge that I have with how long they've gone, in my experience in these cars, I'd be 100% taking two tires here to get that track position and get out front. There is definitely some disadvantages to that early in the run. You could get run over before the tires equal out. So we'll see what guys do here. It looks like Oxidane is taking two.
So for the race off of pit lane, Matt Stallnecht will go to the top position because he does not come down pit road. And you're right, Chad Oxendine is the first driver out of the pits. That is with a right side tire only stop. The previous trip around the start-finish line, Oxendine was scored in the number 2 spot. But he will be the first car on fresh rubbers, and it appears that everybody else goes with 4. Sox, Church, and Swavely, your top 5. Stallnecht will not commit to staying out. He will double back to the pit lane and get service this time. That will hand the top spot to Chad Oxendine with just 2 right side tires.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting restart because the 2-tire strategy, it's not going to work unless they can get 5 or 6 laps down. If it turns into a caution fest, we'll see. But I like what Chad's doing here. He's leapfrogging Brandon. He's taking the lead. He's taking control of the restart. He's going to get the jump that he wants. We know he's got the speed to run down Brandon in a given situation on a long run. I really like what he's doing here, but I also think Brandon has got the short run speed to really pounce here.
Yeah, early in this race, felt like that it was all short run speed, but all of a sudden to the middle portion, we got through recycle the green flag pit stops, allowed some of the drivers who took a more conservative approach and took it easy to kind of thrive in that situation. Now all of that goes out the window because you could at least battle with some degree of confidence that you can't lose too much up front, right? The bubble spot is in favor of Dylan Connolly. He now has a big advantage after the recent issues with Michael Eckhart, who is minus 3 laps, so 2 laps behind Connolly in the number 11 position. And then actually P9 is the last car on the lead lap. So in theory, all those lead lap cars can fight with one another with really too much fear of consequence, unless of course you blow the engine and DNF it, because then you're totally out of the show. But at least these race leaders, unless you really screw it here as the lights go out on top of the pace car, can have a good fight for the race win. It'll be 20 laps to go. Remember, Oxendine, the lone driver who took 2 tires.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what it boils down to now is we're fighting for our starting position. Like you said, the winner of this race is going to start P3 in a 40-car field. That's pretty ideal. But you finish 9th here, you're starting at, in the 30s of a 40-car field. So I definitely, now that we have a short run, I look for the aggression to ramp up within the pack, knowing that there's minimal risk to getting knocked out at this point.
We'll see just how aggressive they want to be. The pace car is down and in with 20 laps to go from Darlington, South Carolina. We look to the flag stand. Oxendine, Sox, Church, Swavely, Scrivener, your top 5. Green flag back in the air.
Yeah, keep an eye on Swavely. We know he's got short run speed. 20 laps is not a whole lot. I think that he's going to be really aggressive here and is going to try to drive his way to the front as well and just, kind of go for broke.
That may be the call that it takes to get a job done, is just somebody who's willing to push it that little bit extra. But Brandon Sox feels like that he deserves this one. Was on cruise control. Oxendine has 2 less tires than him. We'll see if it makes that big of a difference. Meanwhile, on board P4, Richard Swavely, you're looking up to Kieran Church, who is in 3rd, then Sox, then Oxendine. The 77 up front, at least holding his own for the moment.
Yeah, and like I said, Richard is under the attack here on Kiernan. I look for him to, as soon as he gets close enough, make a big move into the corner to try and get side by side with Kiernan. Back here we got Matthew Stalkmick. We know he's going to be going hard here towards the end to try and move up his starting position in the 500.
Everybody looking to gain something, as there is Stolnick in the number 9 position at the moment. Again, can't really go backwards without an incident, can only pick up. That's Eshy up the road. They'll roar down the back straightaway, working lap number 106 of 123. There's a look to the inside by Chris Watkins. Thought about making a move. Instead, it's going to be a move the wrong direction there. As he was way down low, it was the 7 of Derek Fulton who passed him. So Fulton up to P7, and he wants more. Fulton on the back of Scrivener there, off into 1.
Yeah, Fulton's looking strong. Earlier in the race, he looked really strong on the short run as well. I wouldn't consider this a short run to the end, but I think it's short enough that, if you have speed before the tires start to fall off, I would be trying to get all you can at this point in the race. And it definitely looks like Derek is working hard as he kind of gets up there and almost scrapes the wall.
He was right on the cusp of that one, as that's going to be the tricky thing is, of course, it's so easy to get yourself in trouble here at Darlington. You don't want to be the driver who turns the stripe into ripping the side of the race car off. Here is Fulton on board. He looks to the inside, thinking about Scrivener, not willing to commit. Now drives it in because he's got a little bit of space. Kind of a high-speed game of chicken, a high-speed game of chess between these two. Will he put the car there? Will he not? Is he going to give the space? Is he going to dive bomb and throw it into the corner? No real way of knowing how this one's going to shake out. Again, this is a fight way back for P5, 6, and 7. Watkins behind, wants to join the party. But I will say, very impressed with the pace that Chad Oxendine is showing leading this race, as here comes Fulton again into turn number 3. The 70 car not going to pinch him down and give it to Derek Fulton. That's 2 spots gained off of the restart.
Yeah, that's smart racing there by the 70, knowing he's locked in. There's no sense of, when somebody throws it in like that, you can do all you can to drive up there and maybe get into the back of him and try to show him that you didn't appreciate that, but I think that he did the smart thing there and just kind of let Derek on by.
So he is able to get on through. That concludes that battle for position. We check back in with Dylan Connolly, the bubble driver, 1 lap down in position number 10. All he needs to do is outrun Michael Eckhart, who is 3 laps down in 11th. Basically, he could probably run a good 5 seconds off of the pace, just ensuring he's not wrecking that race car and make it in to the show. Mistake free is all over the back of Scrivener now is Chris Watkins. You can see the battle further up the road. Swavely continuing to monitor Kieran Church for 3rd, but they have all fallen about 2 seconds away from the battle for the lead, as it appears it'll come down to Oxendean and Sox.
Yeah, and they're maintaining about the same lap times. Chad's a little bit faster, and if I had to guess, that those lap times are going to increase for Brandon. They're going to get shorter, or the gap between the two is going to increase even more with the 2-tire strategy. I knew I wasn't crazy. Thank you, Chad, for proving me right.
Well, you'll see. And we saw, Moreno tried it earlier, had a bit of a self-spin, but this is really the first of the, top 5 cars that opted to go for the 2-stopper. It was also the shortest interval between pit stops we had seen all night, right? Most of the time we were going 40, 50, 60 even laps between pit stops. And it had only been about 18 laps since the majority of the field had come down and pitted. But of course, with that late yellow, everybody, especially your leaders, knew if I stay out here, someone's going to get tires. I'm going to be a sit and duck, force everybody to pit. And I think it was a great gamble for the 77.
Yeah, it's definitely like the perfect amount of laps to do that on. Again, because even the left side tires will hit the cliff at some point. You're going to have to change them at some point in the race. Having only 20, less than 20 laps on the lefts, that was the opportune time to do it. And Chad's clearly shown he has a handle on driving the car well. So as long as he got through those first initial laps where it was going to be a little bit more loose than the guys with 4 tires, it should pay off for him. Again, barring any mistakes. But we did see him self-spin earlier and have to get his damage fixed. So we'll see what happens. 9 to go here.
Running out of time on board with Fulton as he continues to try to hound the drivers up the road. Again, that's Church in 3rd. It's Swavely, the meat in the sandwich here, as he rides in the number 4 position. We are inside of 10 laps to go from the virtual Darlington Raceway. Is there still more late drama, as behind them, Joshua Eschy will give up a spot to Matt Stallnecht for 8th and 9th. No major implications there. Now here comes Fulton. He'll go around the inside of Swavely, and Derek Fulton overdrives turn number 1. Had the spot, gave her too much, fenced himself, and just like that, the spot belongs to Swavely again.
Yeah, that had shades of Chase Elliott, Martin Truex Jr. written all over it. They both didn't crash, but yeah, Fulton just kind of overdrove the corner. I think he got a little excited getting in there and couldn't get it woed down in time before he hit the wall. But no harm, no foul. He'll reset and try it again.
Just have to try it again. All he can do at this point, and I'm surprised that the race car appears to be relatively undamaged from that, because that was significant contact. I mean, he tried to knock the thing down, knock the fence down in turn number 1, but he continues to stay in the mix.
Yeah, he hit it pretty hard. I think that internally, yeah, you can see he's struggling now. If anything, he scorched the tires sliding up the track, and that's probably going to hurt him more than any of the damage he has with only 6 laps to go. And that's unfortunate. He had a really good drive up through the field here in this last little run, so I hate to see that for him. But he will live to see another day, and could still come home here in the top 5.
Still a chance if he wants to get back into this one. Meanwhile, Brandon Sox has significantly dropped off of the pace of the race leader with 33.008 last time, compared to a 32.472 for Chad Oxendean up front. It appears to be going in favor of the 77 in the closing laps here at the Lady in Black. 5 laps to go from Darlington. Still monitoring the battle for P5, but again, the overarching story, you can see at the top of your screen, top 10 transfer. Basically everybody on track still looking to qualify for the 500.
Yeah, that's a great feeling if you're still here and you're still battling and you haven't had any issues. This was the race to be in. It wasn't easy by any stretch. You had to make it to the end, but here you are. You didn't have to worry about 10 other guys beating you or 15 other guys beating you. You could just focus on driving the track. And like we said at the beginning of the race, these guys are going to have the biggest advantage going into the 500. They've gotten the longest green flag runs alone to see what the car does, see how the track races, and I think that heading into the 500 miles, that's gonna pay huge dividends for them.
To be a big advantage for the drivers, because I don't think we've seen as many long green flag runs in the other two qualifiers as well compared to what we've seen tonight. So that could be a storyline to follow as well, learning about the tires, learning about how the car handles long run. It's been quite a night for Brian Scribner. So the whole started P7, runs P7, doesn't tell the full tale of the tape. As I mentioned, he's got his formal tire on for high class racing, looking to put himself into the show. Up front, Oxendine is going to take 2 laps to go. He will put Dylan Connolly a second lap down, but Connolly should still be good for the final transfer position.
Yeah, and what an interesting feeling for Dylan, to transfer, to have with the struggles he's had, but did a good job of keeping his head in the game and finishing out the race, and it's gonna pay off big for him, and he'll make it into the 500. But here comes Chad coming to the white.
One of those moments where you just hold your breath for a moment and hope that nothing goes awry here in the closing laps at Darlington. The white flag is in the air for Chad Oxendine. Started 10th position on the bubble some 123 laps to go, but he very quickly put himself into the conversation, raced his way to the lead, appeared to be on the backside after the final cycle of the green flag service until a yellow. He was the only driver to gamble with a 2-tire stop. It'll pay off big. Chad Oxendine, qualifying race number 3 winner for the Retro 500. He is into the show, locked into row number 2. Sox, Church, Swavely, Fulton, your top 5, with Watkins, Scribner, Stallknecht, Esche, and Dylan Connolly making the show.
Yeah, we hear some excitement over the radio. I can't tell if that's Dylan cheering that he made the radio, or if it's Chad from winning. I can't see the names, but definitely some excitement there, and quite an accomplishment to finish this race, and let alone win it. So awesome run for Chad. We saw him drive through the field a few times as he burns it down now.
He celebrates on the front straightaway. This winning moment is brought to you by Martin Sports. Founded by Scott Martin nearly 10 years ago in the frozen region of Michigan's Upper Peninsula, Martin Sports strives for the best custom apparel for your needs. Whether you need shirts for your office, jersey, or a local sports team, or specially designed apparel for your sim racing group, Martin Sports has got you covered. Along with shirts and other teamwear, they also offer gloves specially crafted for sim racing that are lightweight, breathable, and complete with padded leather palms. If you want to learn more, you can visit them online at martinsports906.com or at facebook.com/Martin Sports. That is your winning moment in tonight's qualifier number 3. Let's take a look once more. Gary, I read through the top 10. Those are the drivers headed to the Retro 500.
Yeah, definitely a interesting field to make it through. I look forward to seeing these guys, how they do in the 500, as we said earlier. So.
And then, of course, flip side, the few drivers who don't transfer in. And first driver on the outside was Michael Eckhart in 11th. Had many opportunities to make the show in this one. Unable to do so. Misses it out by a lap. Of course, Josh Lee, Tom Moreno to the garage early in the DNSs for Theodore and Mathis at the bottom. That's a look top to bottom at your full race results. Let's chat with your top finishers. We will start with P3. Kieran Church, who is into the big show. Kieran, congratulations on a solid result. You started up front in this race, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it looked like when a lot of these guys were really, driving hard and putting each other into the fence for some of these spots, it appeared your strategy was just keep it calm, keep it in one piece, and it pays dividends by the qualification.
Yeah, after last week's showing, I knew I had at least a top 10 run then, and I kind of overdrove it and heated up the right rear and crashed. So unfortunately, I had to make it in through this third qualifier here, and I didn't want to mess it up. So I wanted to just keep it clean and see where I can finish.
Of course, tell us, one conversation we had over the course of this broadcast was, would drivers who had attempted some of the other qualifying races, have maybe picked something up, right? Had learned something that they could apply to this one. What lessons did you learn in those first qualifying attempt that you put towards this race that maybe molded your strategy or how you approach this one?
I think the one thing that carried over was just tire conservation. Just because this was a different setup than last week, and this one here was a lot tighter than last week's. Last week's was a lot looser, which I actually kind of like a looser car myself, so this was kind of a difficult challenge to kind of keep my tires underneath me. So that's why I kind of took it as easy as I did as well.
Of course, you're into the show, and you get a pretty good qualifying position as well. The P3 here is going to put you towards the front of the field for the 500. What is going to be different about that long 500-mile race compared to this? What are you going to have to change up strategy-wise from a sprint like this to obviously that long and grueling main event?
For strategy, first of all, I got to pick up the pace myself to hang with some of these fast guys, but I'll be battling as hard as I can, but it'll be all about strategy. I haven't really thought too far. I wanted to make it in the show before trying to think what kind of strategy and what I need to do to be faster for the 500.
I'll tell you what, we appreciate the perseverance and appreciate you sticking around and chatting with this one. Anybody want to say hi to while we've got you in the booth?
Yeah, I just want to thank my teammates at CG, Martin Sports Apparel. Go check them out on their website at martinsports906.com. Coming out with brand new sim racing gloves, and they are comfortable. I got to thank Makoni Setup Shop, Shenandoah Shine, Pavement Marking LLC, and Orange Shoes Photography.
That is one of your Retro 500 qualifiers. Kieran, thanks for chatting. Congratulations.
Thanks, guys.
P3 tonight in qualifier number 3. The Donna Kieran Church is in to the Retro 500. Meanwhile, Brandon Sox was in a great position to Gary to win this race till a late race yellow. The pit cycle puts him to P2. He's still into the show, though. You're standing by with the driver of the 69.
Yeah, and Brandon, I have to ask, you were kind of running away with that thing before that last caution. You really did a good job of minimizing your mistakes, and I know Chad got by you there at one point on that long run before pit stops. But tell me about your race, and what were you thinking behind the wheel when that caution came out? I think you're on mute there, Brandon.
Whoops, I'm sorry about that, but yeah, no, it was a smooth race, and then, like you say, until that caution, didn't have no Darlington stripe till I think maybe 3 or 4 to go. I was really pushing it there, trying to make up for that gap, but he made the right decision on pit road, and that's what won him the race.
Yeah, definitely, and I'm curious to know, like, what about this car makes it so tough to drive here? Is it tough for you? Do you tend to want to drive this car more than the newer stock cars? What about this car really attracted you to want to run in the Retro 500 and try to qualify for it?
Well, I always be running the 87s. I just love the not much downforce. It really takes a driver to wheel it. And this track here, you're in a competition against yourself. You're not really racing nobody, especially in this qualifier. So I had no problem, letting them go whenever my tires were shot. 'Cause I did blow one there whenever I pit under green. We had 8% left on the right front.
Yeah, that's interesting. We were kind of wondering what you were doing staying out there so long, but you kind of proved us wrong when you came back out only a couple seconds behind Richard Swavely, and you ran him down pretty easily. So it definitely looked like you were comfortable in this car. Is there anything that you learned tonight that you could potentially take into the Retro 500? When you're up against 39 other guys.
Probably just give the caution a higher probability of happening, because I was running it out till that 37 lap mark, so I'd be good on fuel to finish on green. But yeah, because I would have pit earlier if I thought we was gonna wreck, but it happens.
Well, sounds good, and congratulations on your second place finish. It's going to give you a good starting spot in the Retro 500 on Labor Day evening. And if there's anyone you want to thank, now's your shot.
I just want to thank my friends and family back home watching. Just hope to put on a little show for them. And that's about it.
Well, it sounds good, Brandon. We hope you have a good night, and we'll see you on Labor Day.
All right, sir. I appreciate it. You have a good one.
And let's head down to Victory Lane, where your race winner is lined up for the second spot on the grid for row number 2 for the Retro 500. Chad Oxenden, your race winner for qualifier number 3. Chad, thanks for sticking around and chatting with us, and congratulations on the win. The first question obviously has to be the 2-tire call. How easy of a decision was that for you, or were you not really sure? Because we really hadn't seen any of the guys up front try that at any other point tonight.
Yeah, I've been wanting to try it all race, and it was just a perfect time to do it. So it was a pretty easy call for me. I seen guys last week try it, and I know these cars usually 2 tires isn't so bad like all the other cars on the service oval cars. So I was definitely going to try it. Kind of want to practice everything I could tonight, since pretty much we're going to make it there either way. So I figured we'd give it a shot.
And it pays out big. One thing that we questioned in the booth tonight was, you mentioned that there with mostly everybody making the show. I mean, what is the risk versus reward, right? So many times in the other qualifiers, we've seen guys fighting for P5 and 6 who would otherwise, be in the race, take each other out and neither make the show. I mean, how did you walk that balance between obviously wanting to win this to get yourself the best grid position possible for the 500, but also knowing that the end objective is just to finish?
Yeah, at the start, when we had a few more cars, I was taking it a little easy, playing a little safer. But as some cars went out of the race, I kind of ran hard. I just want to push that envelope and see what the setup was like, what the car would do if I pushed it this hard or that hard. Braking here, there, tried brake biases, got the 2-tire stop in. I went over the limit one time and knocked the wall down, but I was going hard. I figured this was a perfect time to practice. Wasn't gonna miss the big show, so I went after it.
And obviously it gets you a very good starting spot, rolling off the grid 3rd for the Retro 500. I feel like, though, track position in a 500-mile race much less important than it was in this one. This one you drove through the field. So will that good starting spot give you any sort of advantage for the Retro 500? Or, I mean, is that race going to be very, very different, obviously, compared to these?
Yeah, I think the further you can start up front, the better. With 40 cars out there, it's going to be a whole different animal. So I'm excited to be up toward the front, be out of that mess, especially on the initial starting too wide. I would expect some calamity somewhere in the first couple laps. But yeah, I'm excited to be up front, and hopefully we can keep it up there in a couple weeks.
We're looking forward to watching that one, Chad. Well, we've got you sponsors and shout-outs. Anybody you want to say hi to?
Just my Uncle Todd watching down in Florida, and everyone out there watching the Podium stream. And shout out to all the drivers racing pretty clean tonight. I appreciate it.
And shout out to Uncle Todd. You put on a show for him, Chad. Thanks for chatting with us. Congratulations on the win. We'll be looking forward to see what you can do in a couple of weeks.
Thank you, Evan. Have a good one.
The winner for qualifier number 3, Chad Oxenden, is in to the 2021 Podium Retro 500, along with the rest of our top finishers. But Gary, Dylan Connolly from the booth to the Retro 500, he is in your chat with the 95.
Yeah, Dylan, we saw you had a pretty eventful race, battling with Michael for that transfer spot for a good portion of the second half. Tell us how, we talked to you earlier under caution, but tell us how the car was driving there towards the end, because it looked like you had your hands full, but you transferred in, and what does that mean to you?
Well, I didn't have much practice to begin with. I practiced on the set outside the sim, but I didn't have it at the track temperatures that were in the race. But I realized I was overdriving it a lot, to the point where my tires were around 40-something%. So I was like, I gotta let off earlier, and I was in a good spot, you know, when Josh ragged. It was suddenly I was sitting in 11th and I could see 10th in my windshield. I was like, well, heck, may as well go for it. So we just started to save it. He pitted early, and I believe he had, whoever was ahead of me, he finished 11th. He had some issues on pit road, but you know, we were able to just capitalize that we got the wave around. I was like, okay, as long as I don't wreck, we're gonna make it. So I mean, it's just war of attrition and everything, you know, just not wrecking, just making sure keep the car moderately clean, just knocking down the wall the whole night. But you know, it's gonna be fun. Can't wait.
Yeah. Now, is this a car that you would normally drive on the service, or is this kind of your first real shot at wheeling one of these 87 cars?
You know, it's one of my favorite cars. I won't drive it. I'll drive it a lot of 1.5-mile tracks, but a lot of times where this get a lot of use is when it's at Talladega or bumpy Daytona or, you know, any like Michigan, somewhere like that. I've tried it at Nashville. I've started running a lot more, especially since I have this beautiful paint scheme Ryan Pastana made. It's Diamond Gusset Jean Mobile. Tommy Joe Martins sponsored this car for the couple big events this year. So anytime I get a chance to run this car, you know, I mean, it's a good looking machine. I don't pass up an opportunity to run it. So
now heading into the Retro 500, you know, you're going to be starting towards the back. Do you think that's going to be a blessing in disguise? Do you think that maybe there may be carnage? Is there, you know, based on what you experienced out there tonight, you know, how's your outlook for the 500?
You know, of course, broadcasting the first race and then seeing what I saw tonight, it was for the most part clean all throughout the first 2/3 of it, but then it starts to get a little hairy toward the end. So, I mean, you can't win if you're not there. So, I mean, that's my strat. I'm there. So I'm at the party. It's time to go dancing. So,
well, sounds good. We look forward to see you in the Retro 500. And if there's anyone else you have to thank before we head out, go for it.
We'll shout Chris Overland, spotting for him tomorrow in Road to Pro. He's going to go win the race at Rockingham. You know, you heard it here first. Just everybody that was watching on my stream. Shout out to my mom for giving birth to such a legend about 26.5 years ago. But yeah, we're really excited. Just excited. So.
Well, it sounds good. We're excited to have you in the field. It's definitely going to be. You're definitely going to be one to watch and one to talk to throughout the event. So we look forward to having you, and congratulations on transferring in.
Yes, sir.
Well, that is your 10th place finisher who falls into the transferred barely category. Dylan Connolly makes the show, and he will find himself in to the Retro 500. Of course, there's a lot of exciting action coming up here on Podium Esports ahead of the next qualifying race, and of course the main event for the 500 coming up next week. It all continues tomorrow night with the latest round of the eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series as they head to Rockingham. It's a 9 o'clock Eastern double feature start, both here at twitch.tv/Podium Esports and on Podium 2. Then later this week, the SimMax Cup Series powered by MPI heads to the Paperclip. That's August the 22nd, 9:15 p.m. start here on Podium. Then the Operation E Motorsport iRacing League heads to VIR. That one is on the 24th at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time and can be found at youtube.com/Operation Motorsport. Then we are back, the fourth and final qualifier for the Podium Retro 500, right back here at Darlington, August the 25th, 9 p.m. start. Right here at twitch.tv/Podium Esports. And then a big excited one, the Jim Beaver Esports East Short Course Triple Crown returns for 2021 from Lime Rock Park. That one next Thursday, August 26th, 9 p.m. Eastern at twitch.tv/Podium 2. And then the MSRA Premier Series heads to Daytona International Speedway for round number 25. That one on the 28th at 8 o'clock Eastern on Podium 2. Well, tonight was very different, I think safe to say, compared to the other qualifiers that we had seen, but we had a lot of the same elements. Drama with drivers on the bubble having their own issues, some pit stop strategy, even green flag pit stops in the middle of this one, Gary. You know, we were talking as we were going through the line in this one, you know, for a 13-car race of those who actually made it past lap 1, there was tons to talk about, an action-packed 123 laps.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot to unpack. I'm kind of glad there was only 13 cars out there, because it would have been pretty much impossible to keep track of what was going on in terms of tire strategies. We saw guys take 2 and struggle with it. We saw the eventual winner of the race take 2 tires at the end for the last run. The cars are hard to drive. The track is hot. You know, given that the race will take place around the same time that it does in real life, the track is extremely hot in the Darlington area, and I really look forward to seeing how this last qualifier goes. I have a feeling that field's going to be the complete opposite of this one. I think there's going to be a lot of people trying to get back in and make it one last chance. Maybe they weren't able to make it, you know, a second time, or it's going to be their first time. I look for, you know, 20 to 30 cars potentially trying to get in. So aside from that, the race is going to be great, and I look forward to seeing what happens.
And it's still not too late if you want to be in qualifier number 4, participate in this one. PodiumEsports.com/retro500 to sign up. I feel like we will have a lot of those returning drivers, right, for one last chance. Maybe a couple of new faces to shake things up. But until next time, that is it for us here tonight from the virtual Darlington Raceway. Want to say a big thanks to the entire team behind the scenes on behalf of James Pike, Cisco Scaramouche, John Theodore, and the entire team at Podium Esports. For our camera builder, Dougie Beard, and our broadcast team tonight. For Ryan Bauer downstairs, for Gary Sexton, and myself, Evan Pasoko. Want to thank you so much for tuning in and congratulate qualifier number 3 winner Chad Oxendine for punching his ticket through to the feature. We'll be back for the 4th and final qualifier next Wednesday night right here from the virtual Darlington Raceway. That race and every race on the road to the Retro 500 can be found exclusively here on Podium Esports. Until next time, good night from Darlington.